Let's go. Can you hear us? Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for coming. It's lunchtime. We know like you are all hungry, so we are trying to make it interesting. My name is Anaïs. I'm data platform director at Malt, and I'm speaking with Jenny.
Hello, everybody. It's a bit weird, honestly, not having a microphone and having you all listen to me. I'm the analytics engineering manager at Malt.
And today we're going to talk about self-service analytics in the age of AI. Before we jump into the presentation, just for you to understand our context, so we both work for Malt. Malt is a freelancer marketplace, the leading freelancer marketplace in Europe. So basically on our platform you have freelancer that creates profile across domain, tech, data, BI. And on the other side we have clients from all across Europe, also in the UK, that are looking for freelancer to do projects with them. And we do matching, so it's like we are finding the best freelancer for your projects. As you can imagine, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of people in the organizations that wants to really like deep dive into the data. And this is why self-service for us is super important. Before we talk about AI, Jenny will just explain to you where we started and what's our analytics stack look like.
All right. So I'm going to kind of walk you through our tech stack a little bit and through an example of a user and what it looked like, kind of like, before we really thought about what is the strategy for self-service itself. So where did we start? Pressed the wrong button. So I'm going to go through an example of my coworker, Chloe. She is actually a sales manager, and she's trying to prep data for her client meetings, and she wants to know two things. She wants to know what kind of projects her clients have done in the past on Malt, and the second thing she wants to know is how many freelancers and who they are that have worked with this client. It sounds pretty basic, right? So what does it look like for Chloe? So usually, her day-to-day tool is Salesforce. So she would go into Salesforce, kind of like look into the stats of her clients, and unfortunately, we did not send this specific data to Salesforce. So naturally, the second thing that she would do is go to Looker. And Looker is where it's our BI tool. It's also where we have our semantic layer. So she's able to find one of the data sets, like the data for the clients and the types of projects. But in Looker, we have not yet exposed the list of all the freelancers that the client has worked with. So what does Chloe do? Naturally, she goes to a data analyst. Hey, data analyst team, can you help me find this data set? And what does the data analyst does? They go look into the data warehouse. We have the data warehouse built on top of BigQuery. When they found the data set, thankfully they do. They either can expose it to Looker, figure out how do you add it to the LookML and all of that stuff, or more easily, if it's a one-time thing, normally you put it in a Google Sheet. And overall, Chloe is happy. She gets her data. Now she can go back to focusing on prepping her client meeting. But on top of the tool that she already need to use Salesforce, she has to spend a lot of time kind of like scavenging in Looker, trying the right dashboards, and going to the data analyst. And now, even though she has the data, she has another tool, like another Google Sheet to manage. And this is just for one client. So imagine if she manages multiple clients, right? And so what this really leads me to think is like, what is the role of the data team itself? Like, what is the role of me as a data team member? And what I used to be proud to say that, as a data team member, I am kind of like the entry point. I actually help people to figure out which data they should use, kind of guide them, and that should be like, I used to be really proud of that. And we are also acting as a guardian. We make sure that the data stays at quality, all the good stuff. And sometimes things are not perfect, so we kind of have to like make sure that, okay, certain people can have this access, certain people cannot have that access, but all these great things, like good intentions, but what we really are, what I really am, is a bottleneck. So what you see here is a lot of people, everybody wants to have access to the data, but we have so many limited people in the data team member, and with limited resources, we become a bottleneck really fast. So before AI, how did we approach self-service to alleviate this problem? So what we used to focus on and what we still focus on is to first simplify Looker, because our idea is okay, Looker is a point-and-click tool. If we can teach people how to build their own dashboards, and if we, given that the semantic layer itself is simple enough for people to navigate themselves, then they should be able to do it themselves. And the second thing, okay, some people can already do that. How can we then expand this? We created a data champions program where we actually train the business teams, not only on the BI tool itself, but some people, when they need niche data, they have no other choice. They should learn SQL so that they can have access to the data warehouse itself. And that already helps alleviate some of the bottleneck and the upper layer, like the first entry point to get data itself. But honestly, with the age of AI, it brings us to think what if we can just eliminate the bottleneck together? Not necessarily eliminate the data team, but how can our role change so that we can really solve the root of the problem, rather than trying to all of these things that just mitigate the frustrations. So Anais, tell me, can we do this, or are we just doing all the marketing hype that we probably are seeing in the conference?
Trying not to do marketing hype. And the thing is, generative AI really changed the way people approach technology. And they don't understand, okay, I can use ChatGPT, we built AI agent in the company, why can't I talk to the data? So before, people used to learn SQL, learn how to use BI tool, learn to build dashboard and navigate toward that. Now they don't want to learn tools anymore. They just want to speak to the machine. And we really were thinking, okay, we do the data champions, we simplify Looker, but this is not really scaling. So I'd like to share how we approach that. We took a step back and really defined, okay, what's our vision of self-service analytics in the era of generative AI. The first principle, and I'll really deep dive into each of them, is why people do need to change tool. You are a sales, you work on Salesforce, why do you need to go to Looker? So how can we bring analytics in the operational tool to avoid back and forth? The second one is how can we use technology to remove data team as a bottleneck? And the third one is how do we leverage new technologies such as MCP to build hyper-personalized output on top of the data. So that's the three principles I'm going to explain. So let's start with the first one. In Jenny's example earlier, she mentioned someone from the sales team that needs to go to Looker, pull so many data just to prepare a meeting or a quarter business review. So how we approach that is to say, why does this person need to leave Salesforce? She's already going to Salesforce on the contact to really prepare the meeting. So the way we approach that is okay, we're going to automate the workflow in Salesforce and bring the data she needs into the tool. So in that case, it's one click away. So we introduce new button in Salesforce. You click on AI, prepare my meeting on the contact page. And in the backend, we have a sequence of tools that are going to pull the relevance data for us, performance, conversion rates, projects, freelancer, and so on. And then just put a summary like that. So in that case, it's going to explain what's the conversion rate of the clients, what the history we have with the clients, with the contact, and so on. And then just to do our task, she doesn't go to many different tools. So that's one thing, trying to really automate and bring data with generative AI into the tool itself. Salesforce, Zendesk, that's the two examples we have, and this is what we do. Just by doing that, we aim at stopping people jumping between tools just to get an answer that they should have in the operational tool. That's the first point. The second one is a dashboard never has a context. This is the operational tool that has the context. Who is the clients? It's only going to have data. So we remove context lost by jumping between tools. And also there is, of course, a delayed actions. A sales that is spending 30 minutes, in our case, to prepare a meeting, it's a waste of time, right? So we really bring all the data we can with generative AI, which is super important, in the operational tool to avoid that. So that's the first principle. But of course, you will say, this is not the case for everyone. Can I automate all the business workflow? No, because sometimes you just need to do analysis on the side. You have very complex requests that cannot be handled in the operational tool. And Jenny will explain to you how do we do for this type of request.
So how do we build a data analyst so that you can have your own data analyst in your pocket? I mean, I think the way that we like to think about it is just like building any other product, you need to start with who you are building it for. So who is our users that we are building this tool for? And at Malt, we observe two types of people. So the first one is what we categorize as the give me answers people. You know, there are probably people like Chloe, you are doing something else, you just need data to kind of enrich what you are doing, and you just need answers fast, and it's usually straightforward questions. And what we've actually tried on our side is to alleviate some of the easier questions. So we use Looker, and we try to use we try to build our AI capability so that we can actually ask questions directly. And I'm not sure.
It's not working?
Can I press?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, for example. So here I'm just saying, like, what are the top 5 categories in tech that has the most freelancers? And, you know, before, if you either go to dashboards, you find which dashboard has the correct data set. But now you can just like ask, and even with like Looker itself, you know, it may not be perfect. I was asking for a pivot, it didn't really pivot, but just having a starting point from a graph itself, you can do a little tweaks, and then you get the data that you need. So it's really removing the boundary, the first boundary to get the first layer of data to get to the starting point. And the second type of personas is what we're calling like the show me how people. So they're typically the builders. They already know the basics. Like the basics is there, they know it, they know where it is, but they really need more niche data that is not yet in Looker, for example. And there are occasionally also people in the data champions team or in the data team itself. And usually the problem here is because we do have a lot of data. Some tables are named, you know, as much as you can name a table very clearly. Sometimes they're just things that are kind of overlap. If you're not using the data day to day, every day, you may not know exactly which one to use. So what we use, to alleviate that problem, we actually built an in-house kind of data navigator that is basically like an LLM that is connected to our knowledge of our data documentation, our table documentation, so that, for example, here, my coworker Pierre, I have no idea what project he's working on. He's a data scientist, and he just wants to know, given a client ID, where the country is. And this is something that usually he would come to the data team or put a Slack message like, hey team, do you know where this data lives? And then somebody will have to somebody like me would like, okay, I'm in the middle of something, I break my focus, answer him, then he goes back to what he's doing. But he can stay in the flow of what he's doing and doesn't break my own focus and find the answers immediately. So these could be like simple problems, but these really are like the ones that we found like most happening in our company. And just building this, we already enable people, and the questions that we are getting are more enhanced, like more advanced questions beyond the like, where can I find X or Y or Z?
And the question we still have is like, okay, builders, so they are the people doing SQL, doing stuff like that. Like there are MCP right now. We do have a MCP on top of our semantic layer, which is LookML in Looker. And sometimes you have requests that are hyper-personalized. For instance, I'm presenting at the Big Data conference today. I want to showcase you our freelancer community on specific like data points. Plus, I want to have a specific color code for my presentation. Or a sales saying, okay, I'm demoing something to a client. I want to like really have something super personalized. If you want to do that, you spend like days extracting the data, drafting like Excel or Looker dashboards, and you take so much time to do hyper-personalized outputs. So what I want to show you, is it working? Yes. So in my case, I wanted to build a website to showcase to you our freelancer community in the UK. So I'm using Cursor, which is an AI coding tool. It's connected to my model context protocol, so the MCP in the semantic layer. I pass a very big context to make sure I can redirect to the right metrics, and the AI can understand what I want. In 5 minutes, I iterate 3 times. He built me this website. It's a static website, nothing super fancy, but it's enough for me to do the presentation to you. So you can say like, okay, in the UK, we have like, now I think it's 27 1,000 freelancers. Most of them, they work like in tech, design and creative. So it gives me just a basic graph, which is actually the data I requested for. And then I ask a bit more specific data points, which require advanced, like graph. In that case, it's like, okay, can you let me know, like, for the tech freelancer, what do they do? Okay, we know, like, they are mostly back-end, front-end software, and so on. And I can also show, like, the rate analysis, engagement metrics, and so on. What's interesting here, honestly, 6 months ago, I would have never done that. No way. Like, I'm not spending 2 days to code a website to do that. So we really see that with a clean semantic layer and an MCP and the right tool, we can really empower this like kind of technical people to build their custom visualization as of today. And we really aim to bring more that type of tools to more people to make sure they can really like personalize a bit more the output. By doing that, what is super interesting is like we move from the semantic locked in the BI tool. In our case, the semantic layer is locked in Looker. So we move from that to a semantic layer unlocked with MCP. So we can imagine having much more use case where we can leverage MCP across our tech stack. And this kind of use case required previously a lot of rework of the data. You extract, you clean, you create graph, maybe you code your website. I mean, that's a long, long time. Nobody is spending. So it really unlocks a new kind of use cases when it comes to high customization for analytics. I really see that mostly as like you build stuff for outside, not inside your company, because you may want to stay in your tool. But that's really like open a lot of opportunities. Of course, to do that and have the 3 principles we showcased, that was hard work and is still hard work. And I will let Jenny explain to you what's the hard work behind.
Well, I don't think it's anything magic. I'm sure you all know what the answer is to that. Foundations, foundations, foundations. Like, I think no matter what tool you have, if your own house is not clean, it's like garbage in, garbage out. Nothing magical with that. So we did spend a lot of time investments to make sure that every data tables that we have is documented and the documentation is actually maintained. So it's not just documentation. I don't think it's a one-time, one-and-done situation. It needs to continuously evolve, especially as the business evolves. It all changes, right? And standardized naming conventions, I mean, I think these are like, I think we all know like, yeah, that would be great to have that. It's definitely things that are like easier said than done. You definitely need commitment of the team to do that, and it does take time and data modeling that actually reflects the reality of the business. And as the reality of the business evolves, the data modeling needs to evolve. And like AI is only as good as its context. So this is like, I'm in the analytics engineering team, so definitely this is something that my team focuses on to make sure that we can really take advantage of this new AI magic thing.
So to be transparent, that's really the beginning of our journey. We have a long roadmap ahead of us. But I like to showcase what we see as next step for us. The really next step for us is going to be like the future of text to insight. So Jenny showcased to you like the app where you like ask question and then it does graph. But we really want to make like this analytics agent available across different tools and not only Looker. And to do that, it needs context, it needs knowledge, which is what Jenny explained. And what we don't like with the tool we have today is like it never asks for clarification. It just gives me an answer. And if I ask for like, what's the performance of the company? Okay, what do you mean? Do you mean like conversion? Do you mean revenue? It never asks you to clarify your question. So the way we see that, it's like a multi-layer agent with something that is clarifying, which has the business glossary and the business context to make sure we understand the request of the user. Then, of course, it talks with the semantic layer, which is LookML in our case. Sometimes it's not available in the semantic layer, so we need to be able to fall back on the data warehouse, on the documented goal layer. And how it looks like, the way we see it, is like we really want to have an entry point in Slack because people spend all their time in Slack, so that can be Teams for most of you. You ask a question, then it triggers the agent, and then it gives you the answer with some information wrapped with an LLM. But that doesn't solve all the use case, right? Sometimes you need graphs, sometimes you have very complex answers. So that should be able to redirect you to an interface question mark on where it is. It is in Looker today for now, maybe somewhere else in the future. That can really like do graph for you, and you can iterate on it. And last but not least, if it doesn't know, it needs to tell you, I don't know. It's too complex. It's too strategic. Please book an office hour with the data analytics team. So this is really what is next for us, and we are really working on building the foundation for that. But to be able to achieve the end goal and the vision, we need to do 3 things. We need to keep simplifying our semantic layer and our data modeling. Because today, if a human doesn't understand the model, an AI don't understand the model. That's pretty simple. So we still have a roadmap of simplification we need to do. So back to the basic. The second thing is we see that exhaustive documentation in the table and in the semantic is not enough. We need to bring more context to an AI. We need to bring like the context on top of the table. How does the business entities relate to be able to really navigate in the model. And we need to be able to teach the AI what's our company, what we do, and give like really meta context to it. As of today, there is no tool that enables us to do that. So we have a question on like, how do we store this context? Is it YAML file? Where in the code? So we are working on that because we believe if we don't have that, we won't be able to achieve the vision. And last but not least, there is an open question for us on interface. Slack is a no-brainer for us for questions, but then we still have a question mark on where do we put this UI we show you, where we really ask questions. So that's quite a question mark for us. The truth is, we don't really know where we are going to, so I show you the next step, but technologies is evolving so fast, expectation as well. So we are still in the blurry phase, so we are trying to get out of it, but there are really like 2 main things we have a big question on. The first one is, okay, we provide a lot of tools. How do we ensure data accuracy at scale? How do I know that my analytics agent is providing an accurate answer to a data questions? Do we build evaluation for analytics? Do we put guardrail? Do we put human in the loop? Honestly, it's a really open question, and we are really like trying a lot of stuff to find our answers to that. And the next one is very controversial. If you enable text to insights on top of your semantic layer, do you really need a BI tool in the future? I don't have the answer to that question. I'm just asking the questions to myself. I think there is clearly a shift in the future of interface for analytics, where everybody was going to the BI tool, but now it really changed the way we interact with tools. So is it the BI tool evolving to text to insight? Do we move to other tools? I don't know, but I think there is really a question mark on the technological landscape into that. And that's it for us. To be continued. We are working on it, testing. And I think we have quite some time for questions. And I put the QR code, which is like the tech trends Malt is publishing every year that talks a lot about AI. Is there any question in the room? Yes, there is one here. Oh, we need to put this on.
We cannot hear you.
Do you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
So thank you very much for the great presentation. My only question is, could you please tell more about use cases when business users ask for the data in a spreadsheets?
So let me repeat the question.
Yeah,
You're asking for more business.
So I'm wondering about use cases when your business users ask to export data to the spreadsheets. Is they still needed or not?
I think yes, actually, they're still needed because I think as much as we want people to just use the dashboards, even if the dashboards have similar data, they just love tabular format, especially teams like finance teams, even sales teams. They just want to kind of like do it themselves, and that's something that in that case, like the issue is like, okay, even if you have a dashboard, if they don't use it, how can you still let them, if they want to do it in a spreadsheet, go for it, but how do you make sure the data stays consistent?
So it keeps a live data, or it's one-way export?
There's different things based on the use case, but because we use the Google Suite, there's definitely capability to connect directly to BigQuery. So we do use that a lot.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi there, thanks for a great presentation. On one of your slides, you had this kind of gold layer that you wanted on top of your semantic layer. Have you looked at any data catalogs, or what's your thoughts on that?
I can take this.
Yes, go for it.
Actually, I'm not a big fan of data catalog as per se, because I think with AI is really changing the way like you can find information. We do have a data catalog which is called Data Hub. It's an open source data catalog like we host, and it's connected to gold, silver, and bronze. And like some data champions are using that to find and look for information. But I believe what we built with the agent is going to replace that.
I think it's already replacing that.
Hi, thank you very much. The self-server looks absolutely amazing. I was just wondering, have you looked into any sort of data-led service, so daily reporting, and how the types of tools that you're using could support that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The daily reporting thing, we do it with Looker, where you can schedule like reports to be sent to you. We also work a lot with like scheduled spreadsheets, which is I'm not a big fan of that, but we do. And I think we're not very mature on the push part, because what we really like to do in the future is like to be able to push proactively informations to the CEO or to other personnel in the company in a more like tailored way. And today it's like, I would say, a very static way of doing. It's like Looker, you schedule, nobody is looking at a report actually. Because it doesn't have insight, it's just showcasing like graph and stuff. But we're not very mature on that. I think we need to push for more. Any last questions? Yeah, there is one in the front.
Sorry, me again. It's a very niche question. In one of your Looker slides, you had like a Malt's AI assistant, and then you had the Looker Explore next to it. Is that a custom Looker app? Is that something you built yourself, or how does that work?
Yeah.
Yes. Go for it.
It's an open source. Actually, it's on the Looker GitHub repository. You can find it. It's an open source app that you deploy inside Looker. Behind the scene, it does use we built a lot of example. So we have a data set of example to be able to translate the questions to an Explore, which is the language of Looker. And then it does a call to Vertex AI. So it's Gemini behind the scene. So it's kind of custom, but we just fork the repo and push it. Cool.
Thank you, everybody.
I think we're done. Thank you so much for coming.